we're just going to be going through some of the basics. And so the first thing we're going to look at is what you'll see when you log into the member click system. What you see here on my screen, I call this like our dashboard page. This is just the dashboard of the product. When you log in, this is exactly what you're going to come to. Now, this area is made up of a couple of different little snapshots of information from the system. So anything that you see here, we are going to go into much further detail either on today's call or a future training that we'll have. Just to start reviewing, we have our membership dashboard. This is up here in the top left-hand corner. And the membership dashboard should be all its different member types. And then your members over time will be divided up into those member types, and you'll be able to kind of see in the different rows where your members are. So how many people are each of the member types that you might establish. We also have a non-member member. I'm trying to highlight just this prospect word here. If you guys have a list of names that you just want to prospects, people who are interested in receiving emails, people who are interested in communicating, in you communicating with them, then we can put them in this kind of built-in non-member member type. So we'll also have, we talked last time about how we have an active period. That active status means that your members are in their, so they are paying their dues ahead of time at some point when we get there, and then we'll have a grace period that we can use. So that means that they have not paid their dues or past their expiration date, but you're giving them a little bit of leeway, giving a little bit of extra room to play, so they can still access their profile, access all of this networking. Still don't pay their dues. Once that grace period comes and passes, that's when they'll wind up in this lapsed status, and at that time they're not going to be able to log in of social community pieces. But for you guys, it'll look the exact same. Their number is just going to be in the lap one. Questions on any of that?
No, that's great for our CCP aspect, because these people will be members, quote unquote, for 5 years. That's our compliance period. So it'll be great to track that since it's such a long period.
Paralegals that are members of local associations, but we will also have paralegals taking the test that are non-members.
Right, but they'll set up a profile within the system, but it'll be within the CP section. So
right.
I think we can categorize them as prospects unless they meet the requirements.
Exactly.
But yeah, you're right. A lot of
great.
these people will be non-members of CAAPA, but they'll still be able to create a profile.
Right. Okay.
We're not going to have like a membership data. We'll have like a login for all of the board of directors, but we're not going to have, like, if Fresno wanted to have their own, like, since CAAPA is like the umbrella, you'd be able to go create your own subsection for, I don't know what the price would be, but because CAAPA is taking the lead, it would be like a lesser rate, and then we could do Fresno's. We have like how many people do we have? Up to how many we can create on this? I can't remember.
Yeah, I've got it right here, and you can find this information also on your product if you go under settings. What? My computer is being so weird. Bear with me. What in the world? If I go to your account settings, which I'm just, for some reason, it's going to be listed. I think you're at 300 and 900.
Okay.
300 members, 900 prospects. Let's see if I can get this to work now. There we go. Under account settings. Yes, 300 custom files, 900 prospect profiles. Now, prospects do not have technically profiles. So if you have some prospects that you want to have profiles, want them to be able to up their information, it would be a good idea to think about making an actual non-member member type, which I've done with a lot of my affiliations. Almost like an honorary member type, where they can have a profile, update their information. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, as we move along, and I think Carrie, it depends on how, I mean, we're shooting for 500, so obviously this will have to increase at some point, but until we get there, that's the number that we have. So we'll have, 35 or so for our CAAPA board, and then the rest will be all the CCPs, people registering for the exam.
Right.
Right. But yeah, it's inclusive of non-members, and that's why they'll have to pay the fee. And I mean, everybody will have to pay the fee, but we'll set it up that way, so we'll know if they're a CAAPA member or not platform.
Right, because initially we're going to need a way for people to log in, submit their outline, pay their initial filing fee, but then once they're approved, they'll have to go back in and the actual exam fee. So
right.
It'd be nice if that would track all of that. Would be great, because then I could click and see if someone's paid their fee.
We can definitely do that. So they can take like a membership, almost like a membership application, pay that processing fee, and then once that's completed, you can either send them an email, hey, thanks for becoming a membership, it's been processed at this time, or whatever you want to say there, and then you can say, now you need to register for this. So click here and register for the exam. Like now you've been approved to register for the exam, and then they can do that. And in doing so, logging into those forms with their credentials, you're going to have all of that data, what forms they've submitted, what invoices they have under their name, what invoices they've paid, what invoices are outstanding, all of that information captured in their profile.
Oh, that would be great.
Awesome. Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Now, my question is, say we've got someone that goes and takes the test, they become, a member, they get a profile, and then, I don't know, say in 5 years or whatever, they do not renew. Is there any way, since we wouldn't have their, sign information, that for members that are no longer or didn't renew, once we give them so long to renew, we can archive or something, and it doesn't take away from our number of members? Or how do we do that?
Yeah, so you can do one of two things. You can either, if you want to continue to send them emails, actually make them a actual prospect type, so you can still communicate with them. The second, scared by this, but delete them. Deleting in our database is actually kind of like archiving. You won't have contact with them. You won't be sending them emails or anything like that. But if they ever called you up one day and they're like, we were with you guys and we just let this lapse and we just didn't think about it for a couple years, we really want to be back with you. Find their profile as a deleted profile and restore them, and their profile is going to come back just the way it was the day you deleted them.
Even with
that's good.
Documents attached, like if they had uploaded their own documents?
Exactly.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
So permanent. Like, it's like, I don't want to delete anybody, but for us, it's not. It's very easy to restore people. I'll make sure we go over that. If we have time today, I'll make sure we go over just that process so you can see how easy it is.
Okay.
Awesome. Cool. So this is the current, have new members in the last 90 days. This is just going to be pulling out the members that have joined in the last 90 days. It's really just supposed to promote kind of easy access, easy communication with those new members, so that it's not a hurdle, not difficult for you to reiterate the membership benefits they're gaining by being a part of you guys, or just that contacting them frequently so they understand the benefits they're gaining by being with you all as your members. And every time I said, I'm kind of making like bunny ears as I guess they would be members of those. You'll be able to click on any of the numbers. So for example, right now we have 4 admin. I can click on those 4 admin and it's going to take me to a profile list of 4. You'll be able to do that for any member type. When they come into the profile list, my computer is being so slow, I apologize. As we come into the profile list, you'll be able to do a lot of things from that screen. You'll be able to send emails, export. We can delete en masse, undelete en masse, change member types. We'll definitely come back to that so that you guys can see what that looks like. Let's try that one more time.
Okay, so
here we go.
Is this a tab on CAAPA's website? I mean, you go to CAAPA's normal website and it would say what, member clicks or?
Typically say, if we're not bringing over your whole website and we're using it as what we would call a membership module, we would have like a login button, or you could have like a member resource button. I think I might template in place. Let me see. Perfect. So you could have something like this member button up here, replicated on your existing site, or you can just have something in your menu that says member resources. They'll click it, it's going to bring them to the member clicks login page. They'll log in, and then it's going to bring them to a member landing page, which they can do all kinds of fun stuff from. That's where all the social community pieces are held. You can put special documents, special info, all that kind of good stuff on that member landing page.
Okay, so I can work from the CCP tab.
It's up to you guys. It could be, I don't know if that question is directed for me. It is up to y'all where you want to put it.
Yeah, like we would need, we probably want like a board member login, and then we'd want a CCP login, or so that those folks registering for the exam have their own space to log in to, and then my board and the board of directors would have their own section to log into. Or it would take, depending on the email, we could set it up on the back end. If you have this email, it's taking you to this section. If you're just not one of those emails, you would be considered maybe a CCP person, and then it would take you somewhere else. But we can talk about that later. But yeah, we need to have it like separated out somehow. But it's going to be, like I said, in a list, because our board is only like 25 and we only have like maybe 30 emails. And some of them, multiple people own them. So we would just need to keep that info separate from the folks that are going to be signing up as a CCP test taker.
Right, because they're really not members, so to speak. CAAPA doesn't have individual members. We've got associations. Some of these don't belong to me at the local association, so they would just be nothing but an examinee.
Right. So it's weird because I know, Adrian, you say member, and I know we think member is a member, but technically when you say member, we're talking like examinee.
Okay.
And the examinee, okay, that makes sense. So, okay. Is it helpful for me to refer to them as examinees, or is it helpful to, because we can't change where the system's a member.
Okay.
So in a way, we might need to start, I don't know, you tell me, is it a good idea to start thinking about examinees as members, with like bunny ears, kind of like, not the traditional sense of a member, but being kind of like a member? Or is it better to call examinees and think of the word member as being an examinee? Do you know what I'm asking?
I mean, we could leave member, because that would just, could we change it instead of saying member? Could we could we say board member instead of member, or can we not change that at all?
Anything on the back end of the site back here, we're not going to be able to change, and that's just because, like, membership dashboard, and that's just because it's shared code, right? So if we changed it in your back end, it would get across board for all of our associations.
Oh,
but membership dashboard, I mean, members, it sounds like it's holding more than just board or just examinee takers. Like, it's, unless I'm just misunderstanding, which totally might be the case, but like, it sounds like there's CAAPA, and the CAAPA members that have the 5-year, right? Are they the ones that we're tracking? I got that wrong?
CAAPA is the state association, and its members are the local associations throughout California. CAAPA is providing a state certified test, but it's open to all paralegals, whether you're a member of your local association or a non-member. So it's open to all paralegals in the state of California. My only concern is if we use the member people to go to CAAPA to sign up for the test as an examinee, they're going to say, well, I'm not a member, so that's not for me, and they're not going to get, and we're going to be fielding a bunch of phone calls. That's my only concern.
So on the back end, we can eliminate that word member, I think, for the most part, so that it won't be an issue. It's really, I'm sorry, and that's on the front end. On the back end, you guys might see the word member, but on the front end, we can mask that so it doesn't feel confusing to your, we can
That'd
do
be
that.
Great.
Yeah, that won't be a problem, especially for that exam registration. Anybody can register for our event. It would be almost like some type of event that they're registering for, taking the exam. And so they wouldn't see the word member in any of that. So I think that we would be okay there.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because we'll be doing 3 a year, so to them it would be like an event. They could, register for the event. So yeah, that would be great.
A little bit on the back end. And so we'll try to cater that to you guys in the best way. But here, new members just go out as being new examinees, I guess, but it sounds like they could take the exam without being necessarily a member.
Right.
Exactly.
So, and remind me again, so the only kind of cadence that you would have in people paying, is that the once every 5 years? Are they going to pay you every 5 years, or they're paying somebody else, you're just keeping track of it?
Nope, they're paying us once. Well, they'll pay us once for the application, and then they'll pay to sit for the exam, and then every 5 years, if they want to re-up their certification, they'll have to pay a fee. And if they don't pay that fee, then they lose their certification. So that's that one aspect of the examinees. But then the members are, our 12 member associations, they have to pay dues of $100 once a year.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. That makes sense. And you do not have any of those associations right now, or you do, it's just a handful?
What do you, there's only 12 associations, and there's 2 representatives from each association, which we'll create accounts for. But as far as them using member clicks on for their own local memberships, I don't know if anybody is on board yet, but I know San Diego is meeting.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, perfect. So we might revisit this in a little bit today if we've got time. I'll show you. I'm going to keep working through this so we can keep kind of learning about the system, and hopefully when I dive in deeper on setting up some periods of time that people will need to pay, like the once every 5 years, I think I can set that up and we can talk through that together, what that's going to look like. I'm just going to keep going. The more information you guys have, I think the better, and the more it'll make sense, and the more you'll realize how we can cater this to you guys, which will be really cool. Awesome. So we've got current member rosters, new members in the last 90 days. And so we're just looking at those as the examinees, those individuals. So we'll have our actual members. And then, like I mentioned, we might want to create a prospect member type so that they have profiles as well. But anyways, I'm going to keep rocking. So then the next area we have our event dashboards. And so we might be able to use this for your exams. I think that might be a good message. The event dashboard is going to be pulling from our event registration forms. We can use our forms for everything. So we can use them for a membership action, that initial fee that they have to pay, I think would be run through that. We can use these for event registrations, like that exam registration, I think would be an example of that. If you guys collect donations, if you ever have sponsorships, partnerships, we will do all of that through forms. Specifically, the event registration forms will filter into our event dashboards. So you'll be able to take a quick glance to see the most 3 recent past and then the upcoming 3 events to come. And so it'll show you the date, how many people attended, or the date and how many people have registered so far. So if that's just being used for the exams, that's kind of a cool snapshot to see how many people registered for the last exam and how many people have registered for the upcoming exam, to kind of, where you're at with that, which is kind of fun to me to see those numbers. Any questions on those areas?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Lastly, we have some financial dashboards. Once again, we can go way deeper into the financials. This is just that snapshot. We have aged receivables. Aged receivables is going to show us how many or how much money is outstanding in the bottom. We see current 1 to 30, 31 to 60, and so on. This is going to show us, it's going to create a big bar graph. And if we see a big green bar, that means that we've got a ton of current invoices, meaning they're not past due yet. If we have a bar graph created for 1 to 30 days, 31 to 60, 90, or 91 plus days, that means that we have, that much money outstanding and is past due 91 plus days. That much money outstanding, 61, 90 days. So I don't know if when your members have to, it sounds like they're probably going to have to pay that initial fee up front, and then they're going to have to turn around and pay for that exam up front. So the options when your members are taking those forms is that either they can register for the exam, come back and decide to pay later so they can have basically an open invoice created for them, or they have to pay at time of registering for the exam. It sounds like the latter is what you guys will be doing. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah.
What we're wanting to do is,
they would.
When they sign on, we want them to be able to fill out our application, and whenever they hit submit, we want something that pops up and says you must pay your application fee in the amount of, and then they can pay by credit card or however we set that up. And then once we have time to process their application and verify their schooling and background, if they're approved, they'll get a letter or an email stating you can now go on and pay your examination fee for the February 2018 test, and you must have it paid by whatever. And then they can go back on and then click and then pay their examination fee.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so then aged receivables will help you guys just keep track of if you have outstanding invoices or if all of your invoices are up to date as far as being paid. And then the second area to that is the sales over time. And this is actually going to break apart how much money you guys are bringing in by revenue account. So we're going to see a line graph created by how much money is brought in by revenue account per month. So if you guys have a chart of accounts right now that you use in a financial system, or if that's something that you will have later, or if you just want to have like exam fees account, payment fee, things like that, then we can create just kind of special categories to hold those pockets of money, and then we can filter. We can use our revenue account filter by those different pockets of money, and then see kind of what months we're bringing in the most, which you'll probably already have some expectations set on that. You probably already have a grasp of when that money's coming in. Any questions on the sales over time or these financial dashboards in general?
No, I'm good.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to skip around a little bit. I'm going to move from this kind of homepage, this dashboard area, and just to let you know, if you ever want to come back here, if you're ever lost in the site, sometimes I think it's helpful to reset yourself. So we have our home button, so you'll always just come back home. It's going to bring you right back to this dashboard area. The next item I want to look at is our settings and our account settings. So I'm going to talk about some of these items. I'll remind you of this, but graduate. Once you've graduated, which means that instead of hanging out with me, instead of learning the product, you're kind of using the product actively, working in the product. That means that you'll graduate and you'll be reaching out to our help team instead of me for questions. That's not going to be like anytime soon. Later down the road when it does happen, they're going to ask for your account number. You can always find your account number with us under your account settings tab. I love this because if you're like have enough things that you're having to memorize, so it's always going to be in the product for you. This is also a great place to keep track. I referenced this earlier, a great place to keep track of how many customers. We have your time zone, so I know you guys are going to be in the Pacific time zone, and I would just assume that you would want the product in the Pacific time zone as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Then we have your, what we would call like your membership year. But I think what we talked about is that all of those initial fees for like those 5-year guys, they're going to come up and expire on different dates. There's not going to be a set date. They're not going to expire all at the same time. Is that correct? So I have this membership year set as January 1, but we have an overriding setup item that we're going to create that's going to tell the system, no, we're actually just using anniversary. So as people pay that first 5-year fee, 5 years from that date is when they'll be up to renew and have to pay that new 5-year fee, not, you know, every December 31st or whatever kind of fiscal year you might use. So we'll have another overriding setting that will override this membership year that we see here.
Great.
We have our member number turned on. So when we do start adding people in, if they are what we would call a member, if they're one of those custom profiles, they will be paying, they will be provided, they will be given a member number. That's a really good system attribute for us to use to track your membership. Now, you guys may not need it. It's helpful to us if we have updates or if we ever have to do a massive export of all your members, change something about the database and re-import it. It's really helpful because basically we have to have one unique field that's unique to every single member. The member number is always that field for us. So if you guys don't want to use the member number, if you don't need that, if your members don't need it, you can kind of hide it from yourself, hide it from your members, and it'll just hang out on the back end as a system attribute.
Very helpful for those taking the test, so we can track, you know, they each have their own unique identifier besides their name. But you're right, we really need a member number for the board.
Perfect.
Right. But
perfect.
For the examinees, we would like to, because it would go on their certificate, you know, what their member number was.
And all future
Awesome.
boards.
Right, and it might be easier to search for them if we had to search, because if someone calls and says, you know, oh, this is Terry, well, Terry can be spelled numerous ways, and it'd be easier if you just ask for their member ID number or their, you know, certificate number, and we can look it up that way.
Yeah,
Yes.
that does sense. That makes sense. Awesome. Remind me, are you guys using QuickBooks? Do you use QuickBooks for financials?
Yes, we do, and so we will want to integrate that as well.
Awesome. So they don't technically integrate. They're not going to just automatically financials and MemberClicks are not going to update in QuickBooks, but you will have the capability to like export a transaction report and then import that transaction report into QuickBooks. So while they do communicate, they can talk to one another, and you can use that transaction report to reconcile your accounts. So that's something that we'll talk about. Probably we'll talk about financials once there's a little bit more of an understanding of the system and we have more of the initial setup items completed. That way it's not like just going over your head, but you kind of understand everything that's going on, and you know what I mean? Yeah, we'll talk. I think that we can come back to that detail. Emails that you guys send out of the MemberClick system. So you'll be able to send emails, targeted emails to your members or non-members. They will have the ability to reply to those emails. Do you guys have like an administrative account that you would want those reply to emails sent to?
I think it depends on what it is, because if it's like an event, then but we don't have, other than that, we don't have like a general email account.
Okay. You can set those emails per email that you send out. You can set the reply to email, so you can specify that. But there are going to be, what about, so like we'll have notifications that'll go out to your members for those invoices. So what if somebody receives an invoice and they're like, I don't know if I'm supposed to piss, or I have a question about this. Do you guys have anybody that they should reach out to specifically?
They can always email president. I mean, that's kind of like the fail safe. It's so
the president.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put that in this reply to email? We can change this for every email that you guys send out, but that way, if it doesn't for some reason get changed, at least somebody's getting it. Otherwise, it's going to go to just like a member clicks
random account.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So it would be president. Is it president@CAAPA.com?
It's CAAParalegal.org.
President at CA Paralegal?
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Awesome. And then lastly, we've just got some billing contact information, and this is for member clicks to have on file for us, not for anything else. So any questions on it? Go ahead.
Treasurer or president under that email?
Here.
Up at the top under billing contact.
Oh, okay. You want me to just use the same one?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it can go. Can you do both, treasurer and president?
I can only have one in this. Actually, I can probably have both.
Because we like to have, just in case, since we're volunteer, you know, it's better to send it to 2 people rather than 1.
Absolutely. CA Paralegal, CAAParalegal.org. And I need to change this down here. Paralegal. Okay. Does that look good?
Yeah.
Awesome. Any questions on any of these account setting items?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I would, no, we're good? Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to save that. So from here, I would traditionally start talking about financials, but I want to talk more about SUMED, and I'm going to go to database, and I'm going to go to attributes. So to talk a little about what attributes are in the system, attributes are just pieces of information that help define the individual in your database. So my name is Adrienne, my name being an attribute who I am. We have 3 different types of attributes that we keep track of in our system. We have built-in attributes. Those are the items that you'll see here on my screen. A built-in attribute is just a piece of information that we know you guys collect on your members because 1,800 of, all 1,800 plus of our associations have wanted to collect this info on their members. Things like their name, right, their email address, physical address, phone number, and organization. Those are pretty basic pieces of info. Then we have system attributes that we collect on your members. And those are things for the system to use to keep track of when they need to pay their dues, like when they need to pay that initial fee. Again, so that's the join date, expiration date, the last renewer, their member type that we're going to call them by in the database, their member number, things like that. So that is what tells the system, okay, it's been 5 years, it's time for them to pay that fee again. So those are what we would call system attributes. We're not able to change them in your members' profiles, but they are what they are because they have to be what they are, basically. So we've talked about the tenants, and then there's a third type of attribute. Now, you guys may already have some of these. You may want to create even more of these because you have the ability to. And so custom attributes are kind of additional demographics. That's down here at the bottom of my screen. Additional demographics that you'll be able to start collecting on your members to kind of continue to help describe them. And so you may want to collect things like some silly examples, their birth date. I have some associations that want to collect gender. Other associations they're involved in, whether they're a part of the national chapter, or I know there's some like different chapters you might want to track what they're a part of. Are you guys, do you understand where I'm kind of going with this? Do you have any examples that you can think of off the top of your head that you might want to collect on your members?
I'm sure we'll have some extra data points we'll want to collect. Well, probably besides organization, if they have any kind of designation after their name already, like CP, certified paralegal, or RP, registered paralegal, so, or, you know, CLA, or whatever it is. Usually we'll want to know about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, we'll have to think about it. We can, you know, go back to that section.
Yeah, throw a little brain power on it just to show you an example. And we can have as many of the custom attributes as you want to have, or as you think that would be useful to you guys. But like, I can add a new custom attribute. So we could call this designations. But I'm going to spell it right, designations. Now, we can set up these attributes that we're collecting on your members in different ways. Like we can have different field types. The most useful field type to collect information on is using what we would call selection set. The reason why is because you can easily search. Did you have a thought?
I was thinking tech because I don't know. There might be some designations out there that I can't think of. And so we probably wouldn't want to limit it to whatever we think is appropriate, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm totally following what you're saying. And so so there's two sides of that coin. If you don't think you'll ever need to search that information, like if you don't see yourself going in the database and being like, who has this specific designation? I've got a special thing that they might be interested in. If you don't think you're ever going to do that, a text box is totally fine.
So if we do a selection set, we can easily sort or search by that specific designation to reach out to those particular individuals.
Exactly. And what a lot of, something that I see a lot of the time is because you don't want to make anybody feel left out, right? So what you would do is create an other option. So we'd make all the, we'd make all the list of designations, and then there'd be an other, and they would check it, and then we could create a designation other detail. So below that, if they checked other in something like the membership application, or if it's the exam registration, if they check up, please describe other below. And then that way you can still have access to that information. And if you ever kept seeing the same designation pop up over and over again, you can just add it to your list of choices. So that's why selection set's my favorite. It's almost impossible to search by a text box because everybody spells things differently. Some people are going to use the acronym, some people are going to spell it out. Some people are going to come with some crazy stuff, like just off the wall, never even heard of. Like, I don't know what that means. I think I mentioned like spelling errors, caps, uncaps, periods, commas. You know what I mean? It just starts to get really crazy and almost impossible to search by. The reason I'm bringing this up is not because I'm like necessarily going to make this designations attribute now, but just to kind of get your brain turning. So when you're thinking of ways, new attributes you might want to collect on your members, think in terms of, okay, am I going to want to search it, or is it really just to have as a filled in text box? If you're really wanting to search it, think of the choices that you might want to give them to begin with to choose from. And then of course, we'll always add that other option if it's applicable for them to choose from, so they can write in their own detailed information. So think about those. Over time, I'd like to, obviously before we launch, have you have a little list of some items that you want me to create in here that you might want to start collecting on your members, or things that you've already collected that you haven't thought of in terms of fitting into member collects, and then maybe have a list of selection set options if that's applicable to that specific type. So just something to think about. Okay. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Awesome. So one thing that I'm going to talk about for just a moment is we do have like profile owner attribute security, which you see up here, and attribute security. So basically what these two will do, and I'm not going to go in them in them. Basically what these two items do is your members will have the ability to update the information in their personal profile. And so once you have all those attributes that you want to collect on your members, they'll be able to go in there and start filling all that out in their own profile, which is really cool. Some things you're not going to want them to be able to update, like they shouldn't have the ability to change their member type or their expiration date. Right, so those things we will not give them the ability to change, but they will have the ability to see it because that's information they'll still need to be able to see. A lot of my associations have a custom attribute called notes field, and that would be like internal notes. That would be a field we would hide altogether from them. They wouldn't be able to edit it or even see it. And that would just be a place where on the back end as administrators, you guys could add in as much information as you want on that individual to kind of either help jog your memory when you see them, help you remember why you voided a certain invoice or why they didn't come to the exam or, whatever the case may be. You can use that if that's a field that you would want to have. Not everybody has something like that, but just kind of a thought. So that's where profile owner attributes edit what they can see and what's completely hidden from them. The other side of that is attribute security. So not only will your members be able to view their own profiles, but if you want them to, they have the ability to view other examinees or other kind of members' profiles, maybe for networking potential, if that's something that you want to offer. We don't have to open that up. So if you don't want there to be a directory, you don't want them to be able to search each other, we can just keep that off. But if you do, that is something that we do. And then you would just determine, okay, obviously they can't edit in other people's invoice profiles, but what can they view and what are they not allowed to view at all?
Yeah, we probably don't want that feature.
Okay, we can just keep all of that turned off, and so we'll never use that, and we won't have a directory, and that's totally fine.
Right, because I think we would want to definitely be able to track as an attribute, passed or failed, because they do have the option to retake within a certain amount of time. And since we don't have an actual office location, it's not like we're going into work or our database is. We're all over California. And, one close to Southern, I'm in Central. We could, any of us log on and say, oh, they said this person passed in February, but this person failed in February, but they can't take it until here. And we could track things like that, but we don't want the members to be able to see them. I don't want Betty knowing that Tim failed the test. That's not her business. So confidentiality wise, I would think that, yeah, we wouldn't want them to be able to search each other.
That makes total sense. Yeah, that makes total sense.
That would be good for the notes section to put, failed on this date, eligible to retake on this date, something like that.
Exactly. So that way, if somebody went in again and we go to pull the notes up, it's going to say, no, they can't take this time. They have to wait. And then we can send them an email, something saying, I'm sorry, but you're not eligible at this time. And it could be any of us, because we would all, put the notes in the notes section. So instead of it being all on one person, it would be administrative CCP team to keep all that up to date. And that way we don't anybody, not realize not eligible right now or something like that.
Exactly. And the awesome thing is, just speaking of this all being online, you guys all being able to share this information, that's awesome. And you'll be able to see the last person that made updates to that field. So if you see like the notes field looks different than what you last saw, you can go back and see who made those changes. And so then you can call each other up and be like, hey, I didn't know that this was the case. Like, didn't know this happened. Like, what, are you sure this is accurate? Or, I just want to double check on this information before I send this email or whatever it may be. So I like that, because you don't want to be making edits on top of one another without potentially knowing who made that edit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really great, actually.
Awesome.
That's great.
So this is kind of all to do with attributes. Main point of this is just getting your brain thinking about what kind of additional demographics you might want to start collecting on your members, I'm going to go ahead and go back for just a second. And I actually want to look at your member types. So I'm going to go to database, and now I'm going to go to member types. I was at database and attributes. And don't feel like for all of this, we're definitely going to touch on all of it again, I'm sure. What I want to show you in here is what we can do. And so then you might want to think about, okay, this is what they can do. How can this work for us to hold our information? So this is where we're going to create those different attributes, those different member types that we're going to put either those examinees into, put the board members into, whoever it may be, those associations into. And so we can have different types of member types. One would hold an individual profile. And so that sounds to me like one of the examinees, an individual that I would be a member with you guys. You send me, potentially an invoice that I have to pay, or maybe I don't get an invoice, I'm just registering for exams, but it's just me. It's my single profile. And that's all it is. The second option that we have is organizational. So what that organizational structure means is that maybe member clicks would be your member. Member clicks would get that invoice every 5 years, whatever it may be. Member clicks pays for to take the exam, but member clicks is a company, so the person who's actually benefiting would be the employees of member clicks. So member clicks would be your member, but I would be a benefiting member. A company profile or an association profile, I would have a linked profile all about me, but linked to that association or company. Now, the only reason I bring up both of these is that you've mentioned that you have associations. Do you think that both of these could be helpful, or do you think strictly individual?
I think
I'm not really sure.
I would say both be helpful, because we would be able to tie members to what association they're with, and the ones that are non-members of an association, we can list those as like prospects, and that way we can keep track of members, associations have how many members. To me, I think that would be the easy way to do it, is you just pull up San Diego and look at their profile and say, okay, they've got 400 members. Well, I can pull up CCPA, they've got 30. If everybody's an individual, you're not going to be able to figure out who's with what association without doing a major search.
The only thing I'm thinking about that is that you wouldn't want to have 400 linked profiles to an association if they do in fact have that many that would be linked, because they are still taking up your contribute count. So if it's the association that is paying the dues amount, and then you've got 400 other linked profiles and they're not paying, it's just the association, that means that you have 400 profiles that you're paying us for and they're not paying you for. Does that make sense?
Right. We just have to, we would probably just leave the one file and have that as a data point rather than a linked profile. But if, like, San Diego, for example, wanted to buy a member-click database, they could then latch on to us, and then we would be able to link them to us somehow, but they're paying for their own custom profile. Does that make sense?
It does. So they wouldn't be paying you guys for a custom profile. Like they wouldn't pay you a dues amount. They would basically have their own subscription with us, their own membership with us, and they would host their website through us. And then I think through API, we could connect you to. I think I'm doing that with another association right now. So I'll be able to have more information on what that looks like once I complete this with my other association. And I'll have a great example for you guys to look at as well, which would be awesome. Cool. So just to show you more of an example, this organization, here we go. So we've got organization, this is an organizational member type, and then we've got this dash with employees. So this would be the linked member type or the sub member type. So if I click on the organizations, this number 5, it's going to show profile list, just those 5 company associations. And we all play around in the site. This is the member clicks test site, so bear with me on some of the examples that are in here. We've got BTS. So if I go into BTS organization, this is going to be the company's profile. This is going to give you a great glimpse, by the way, of kind of how things are going to be organized. And then this is all about the company, and it tells me right here they've got 1 linked member. They've got 1 person underneath them. I can go to,
real quick.
yes.
So this would be a good place to have the linked profiles as our representatives. We'd have like Diego, have their logo, and then we'd have 2 linked profiles. We'd have their director and their second director. And then we could add in all the data points, right?
Exactly. And that's exactly kind of where I was going with that, is instead of having necessarily every single individual who's with the association have their main contacts as individual profiles.
Okay.
So then we've got 1 linked profile here. You've got all the info on the company. If I go to the linked profiles tab, it's going to show me who it is. I can click on that profile, and it's going to take me into the individual's profile. The individual profile, this left-hand up here, by the way, is all of those built-in attributes that we would have initially talked about when we were talking about attributes a moment ago. The right-hand box are those system member number. Groups is kind of a system attribute I'll explain a little bit later. A balance, if they owe you anything. Member status, are they active, graced, or lapsed? The join date, the last renewal date, the expiration date. We also have the last time the profile was modified, and then when the profile was created. We can also view their membership history. That's going to tell us if they went from being a member to not a member to a member to not a member. It's going to show us event attendance. You know, have they come to? How many exams have they taken? Is something I think you could use that area for. And then view latest changes to attributes, which attributes have been updated mostly and who made those updates. And then in the middle section, it's got just a quick summary taking us back to the company's profile and a quick pieces of info on the company itself. And then down at the bottom, we're going to go back into a summary of all built-in attributes. And then at the very bottom, any of those attributes.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's that's probably how we're going to have to do that. So we'll have 12 of those.
And then probably each of those would have 1 or 2 linked profiles.
Yeah, 1 up to 2, and then we'll have like an executive committee. Well, actually, I guess because the president is the only one that's not part of the 12. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Now, something that, and I'm just throwing this out knowledge as I can. Sometimes what I've seen a lot of with my associations, and what I think is really cool, is when they tell their members. So you would tell your association, yeah, you have 2 individuals with you being with us. You get 2 individuals that'll have individual profiles. They'll be able to log in, update, make sure their dues are paid. Register for stuff, and maybe over time you'll have some special member resources they'll have access to. So for 2, okay, you'll pay this amount, or maybe they're not paying. I don't know. That's a free membership, and you get 2. But if they want to have 5, or if they want to have 10, now they have to pay $500 or $250 or $50, whatever. So we can determine pricing, like if there was a price involved for a fee to be in your system, in your database. We can up that fee if they wanted to have more linked profiles. Why that's beneficial is so that you don't wind up with 400 linked profiles one day. Instead, it's like, well, if you want all of these people to have profiles of their own, if you want all these people to be able to do this, that's fine, but you're going to have to pay us this amount in order to have that. I don't know if that fits you guys at all, but did I explain it in a way that?
Yeah, it might not really apply to us today, and maybe not next year, but maybe in the future, as we move forward and we get used to this new technology and doing things this way. But as of today and next year, probably most likely not. They're not going to be interested in that. But it's a great, it's a good tool to have and use if we want to entice people to come over and use it, or make more money somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I just realized it is 5:02 and I have a 5 o'clock call, and that hour went by so fast for us.
So let's go ahead and we'll have to, finish this call up maybe next week, because we have it planned, I think, for next Monday.
Yeah, let me, I'm going to